Hey there, we are live from Midtown Comics. We have a wonderful, magnificent, if you will, Monday in front of us. Thank you for joining us on today's mega Midtown Marvel Monday. A lot of books, of course, in front of us. We have 2 weeks worth of Marvel Legacy titles, and there's a whole lot of stuff. And honestly, there's so much that I'm just going to dive right in and we're going to talk about it. There's a lot of meat here. Let's get to it. So, first off on our list is the brand new issue of Avengers, issue number 674. So, it's Mark Waid and it's Jesus Saez on art and this very cool Alex Ross cover. And this is part 5 of the Worlds Collide crossover storyline between Avengers and Champions. Now, this is 674. Next issue is 675, which is the start of No Surrender, which is going to be a crazy big story, big, event for the Avengers. But right now, things are looking like the Avengers might not even make it all the way there because there are some really crazy things going on in this book, and there are some casualties along the way. And I won't tell you who, but I'll tell you it's incredibly depressing. And it's really great. If you've been reading Avengers, Mark Waid's been on the title for the last 2 years because he did all new, all different Avengers, and now he's doing Avengers and he's doing Champions as well. So it all has a natural synergy, and the character arcs feel like they're making sense. And what's going on with the Vision and with Vision really strikes the emotional core of the storyline. And it's weird to think of two androids as like the center of this big storyline emotionally. And it's really cool though. Some great stuff going on in Avengers. Check it out and get ready for No Surrender next month. We'll be doing a special signing with Jim Zub for that as well. So that'll be really cool. Now we're going to continue on, and we've got another Mark Waid title for you with Captain America issue 696. Now this is the second part of Mark Waid and Chris Samney on Captain America. Of course, I did 695, but as much as I enjoyed 695, 696 blows it out of the water. And I'm just going to show you some of the art in here because that'll give you just an immediate reaction as it did for me. This issue is fun. It's one-shot format, even though it's issue 696. So you don't have to have read 695, but just look at that gorgeous page. That is page. That is page. That is a page that makes me extremely happy. Some magnificent stuff from Chris Samney, and Matt Wilson does the coloring on this book, and oh man, he deserves all the acclaim in the world for what he is doing on this book. Some really cool stuff. We get to see the swordsman facing off against Captain America in this little small town as he defends what is right. But I really like it. It's really good, and it's probably my favorite single issue of Captain America. I can now start making these proclamations because we're at the end of the year. This is probably my favorite issue of Captain America for the entire year, and it really is magnificent. Check it out. Mark Waid and Chris Samney on Captain America. Everything they touch is absolutely amazing. Now, one book that we do not have in front of us because we sold out, but I want to talk about it because it's so special, and I don't even have it in my hand, is Doctor Strange 382. So this is 381, and 382 disappeared. It vanished because of how good it was. So 382 was the second part of Donny Cates and Gabriel Hernandez Walta on the Doctor Strange title, and I really like this issue. I really like issue 381. But 382, man, crazy. Crazy what happens. I was emotionally devastated over like a side character that we were like just introduced to, like I already developed an emotional attachment, and maybe that's me being a sucker, and maybe I shouldn't have emotions because who needs them anyway, right? But seriously, 382, find it. We might still have it on our website. I'm not sure if we're sold out online yet, but if not, track it down. There's sure to be a second printing because there's a crazy debut on the last page, and it made me really happy as an Avengers fan to see this character pop up. And I won't tell you who it is because I don't want to spoil it. I mean, maybe I would have spoiled it if I had the book, but if I don't have the book, then what's the point of the spoiler? But check it out. It's really great. Doctor Strange. So then, also in front of me is the brand new issue of Guardians of the Galaxy, issue number 148. And I've got this cool Erica Henderson Phoenix cover, which I think is really great because Rocket Raccoon with the Phoenix powers just sounds really bad. That should not happen. That'd be terrible. But the book itself is great. We've got Jerry Dugan and we've got Marcus Toe on art. And I really have loved Marcus Toe's art for a long while now. And we get some really cool stuff here as he's dealing with the Nova Corps, but also as we've started to see a little bit of teasers here and there. And since this happened last issue, I don't feel so bad if I show you. Let's see, where's the page? Where am I finding this? There is some crazy shenanigans. Where is it? It's like, must be the first page. Yeah, first page, that's why. We see one of the Infinity Stones. So we know that there is Infinity Countdown coming up, also written by Jerry Dugan with art by Aaron Cooter. So the Infinity Countdown is coming up as Guardians of the Galaxy gets ready to draw to a close on 150. So this is clearly building the foundation for some crazy epic sci-fi adventure, and I cannot wait to see where it goes. Now, as we move on, we've got one of my favorite Marvel titles in the entire world. One of my favorite legacy books as well. We've got Hawkeye issue number 13. So we got this really cool lenticular cover by Greg Smallwood, which is, of course, homaging the wonderful David Aja cover to Hawkeye from the Matt Fraction series. And the Matt Fraction Hawkeye series has a really close place in my heart. I love it. It's one of my favorite comics probably ever. But I really have to put Kelly Thompson's current run on Hawkeye directly next to it because there really is some great stuff. Leonardo Romero is on art. And just to give you a sense of how fantastic looking this book is, we see Kate and Clint in action. Of course, that's right. The OG Hawkeye is teaming up with Kate Bishop for the arc in the storyline called Family Reunion, which I think is very appropriate and very cute. And it's also really cool because it's actually playing up on some of the plot points that we saw developed in the Generations one-shot a while back. So I really dig that because the Generations one-shot was really awesome and some really good character work. And this book is fantastic. It's one of my favorite Marvel titles coming out right now. It actually might end up being my favorite Marvel book of the year because it's issue 13. All of them have been amazing. The Generations one-shot was amazing, and this book is super good. And also, just to show it off, because we got it, the Mike McCone headshot cover is also really cool. But seriously, I cannot speak enough praise for Hawkeye. If, like, that's one of my favorite Marvel books. It just straight up is. Pick it up. It's awesome. Now, another book that is really cool and has gotten a ton of acclaim and is also near and dear to my heart is the brand new issue of Black Bolt, issue number 8. Some really cool stuff here. Show off, I really like the Christian Ward art here. So Christian Ward, of course, does the interior art, and Saladin Ahmed is the writer. And if you haven't been reading Black Bolt, you've been missing out on one of the coolest books the Marvel's put out these last few months. It's spun out of the Resurrection, but you don't need any knowledge of the Inhumans or the X-Men or anything to jump into it. It's just good on its own. And I think that's a really cool thing, a book that feels like a natural part of the world without feeling dragged down by it. So I really like it. I really like that in this issue we get to see Black Bolt returning to Earth after the first story arc. Kind of saw him taking a weird space adventure, and it's really cool. It's really good character-driven stuff, following up some of the plot threads involving the Absorbing Man, and I really dig that. We also get to see Christian Ward draws a magnificent Lockjaw. He really makes him look really cute and fun, and I really dig that in this book. It also has a lot of really heavy themes. It deals with some of the abandonment of his child, because he basically, if you were reading Uncanny Avengers a while back, like, you know that Black Bolt is a really terrible father. So it's cool to see that brought up because you know, you can't get by being a bad father. You're gonna have to kind of come to terms with that. But if anybody's like, I feel like certain characters, you know, you look at it and you go, okay, how come Black Bolt have a book? Black Bolt doesn't talk. What's the book? That's what gets this really exciting, is that Saladin Ahmed really does a great job of exploring communication through nonverbal forms, and Christian Ward is, of course, no small part of what makes that work. And this book has just been really cool, really great, and yeah, I really dig it. You know, it's awesome. Also, Blinky is adorable. So, you know, and yeah, and then this is the main cover. It's on the table as well, but if you want a good shot at it, I really dig it. Some really cool design here, because it all looks like the Black Bolt logo, but it looks like, you know, he's going to get executed. Nice. Cool. So, another really great book that I'm really digging that I wasn't reading before Legacy, so I will admit I made a horrible mistake, is Iron Fist. So we got a couple different covers here. We've got the very cool Phoenix cover, which I really dig because Iron Fist in his red costume. Also because Iron Fist has some loose history with the Phoenix, if you guys read some of what Bendis did a few years back, and they've also talked about it in some of the recent stuff. But we got the main cover as well, which I'm a big fan of, by Jeff DeCall. And the book in general has been really great. This is, of course, Sabretooth Round 2. So Ed Brisson is bringing up some of the classic stories of Iron Fist, teaming him up with Sabretooth, who is, of course, originally an Iron Fist villain. And I really like the banter between the two of them, and I really like that the foe that they are facing off against right now is the Serpent Society, because I really like villainous organizations. I think they're fun, I think they're engaging, and I really like what they've done with the Serpent Society here, because there's just so many guys in the Serpent Society, and it really plays it off really well. We've got the new Constrictor and some cool stuff, some creepy, really crispy looking hands that I won't tell you about their plot significance, but if you can look at the panel, you might be able to figure some of it out. But some great stuff. We've got Mike Perkins on art, and I really dig what he brings to the book, brings it a good old school kind of kung fu feel, like a lot of those 70s and 80s kung fu books, and some cool stuff on the horizon for this really awful pairing, because you wouldn't want these two guys to ever be put in a room together. They'd probably argue about just about everything they could. But I'm very curious to see where the storyline continues, because Sabretooth Round 2 has been really good so far. It's been a complete win. Then we have the brand new issue of Spider-Man, Sinister Six Reborn, in issue 235 by Brian Michael Bendis and Oscar Bazaldua. And some really great stuff here as we get to see how the new Iron Spider operates, and we get to see some fun stuff with the Spot, which I really like because I like the Spot. And we get to see Red Hulk, because Red Hulk is great, and you guys should read U.S. Avengers. Really like U.S. Avengers. But some really cool stuff here. It's a really great book. We get to spend a lot of time with the villains this issue, but we also get to see kind of, Miles having to accept the help of others in his life, and kind of some cool banter between him and his friends, some interesting developments there. And we get to see Armadillo, good old Armadillo. Who doesn't love the Armadillo? I love the Armadillo. I always felt bad for the guy, he's like Rhino, but he doesn't get to be cool. Like, at least Rhino's cool, But you're Armadillo? Not that intimidating. But cool book. Some great stuff coming up on the horizon with this, because I'm very curious to see. I still won't tell you who the new Iron Spider is, but if you're reading it, you already know, and it's great. Then, in a completely different world of Spider-Man, we have the Amazing Spider-Man Venom Inc. Part 1. This is the Alpha, and this is a great cover by Ryan Stegman, but I gotta show off this really cool Adi Granov cover that I'm super in love with, because it's really cool. And this is a crossover between Venom and Amazing Spider-Man. So if you're reading either one of these titles, well, you're probably already going to be interested in the storyline, because, of course, it sees Venom brought back in with Spider-Man, and we get to see some crazy conflict. But if you're reading either one of them, you got to read both now, just for a hot second. It's a quickie. But very cool. So Dan Slott and Mike Costa are splitting the art, but Ryan Stegman is doing all of the art. And I really like, just to give you guys a sense right away, that I love about the scale of the story is that right away we get to see Mania, which is great, because she was a part of what Rick Remender was doing on his Venom run a few years back when it was Flash Thompson. So it was very cool to see that plot thread picked up and to see her explored once more. And it's also cool because we get to see the debut of a couple new symbiotic pals that we can enjoy. Maybe not enjoy. Maybe that's not the word. Maybe they're not pals. But some cool art here by Ryan Stegman that I really dig. But now, because it's been a couple weeks, this is one of those things I'm going to spoil, because it's also on the cover of the next issue. But where is it? Where is it? Boom. A brand new Anti-Venom, which is awesome. That is so cool. I actually, I was a big fan of the storyline where they introduced Anti-Venom in the first place, New Ways to Die. Some really cool stuff there. And that was also Dan Slott. So it's Dan Slott kind of bringing up some old concepts from a few years back that fans really missed and really enjoyed. And also, I mean, I don't know how permanent this is, because symbiotes are always kind of crazy. They're fluid. That's kind of their nature. But I'm really curious because this gives us the best of both worlds. We get to see Eddie Brock still as Venom. We get to see Flash Thompson now in a new role. And I really like that. And it's also an interesting flip on their dynamic because, of course, the way that things developed with the two of them. We actually, in the way that the world works, we didn't get to see them both at the same time because when Flash became Venom, there was only like a brief overlap with Eddie being Anti-Venom because Eddie was cured of the Anti-Venom. And but this book is great. I'm just getting into lore, but the book is great. Dan Slott and Mike Costa really build on established mythology with the symbiotes very well, and I'm really enjoying the relationship between Flash and Peter in this issue, but I'll talk about that more because we've got another issue. So don't worry, I'll come back to this. Then we have the brand new issue of Spirits of Vengeance by Victor Gischler and Javier Baldion, or I'm sorry, David Baldion. I do that all the time. Very cool stuff here as we get to explore some of the roots. It's almost like exploring the root of evil in the Marvel Universe as we're dealing with a lot of satanic themes in this book and some great stuff. I really enjoy everything that has been brought to the table. Victor Gischler does a great job, and these are some crazy demons that David Baldion is drawing in this book. They look awesome. They look really cool. They almost look like xenomorphs, which is awesome because I'm a big Alien fan. And I really just like what they have done with this book and this cast, and I'm very curious to see what goes on in the future as we see some cool stuff. I can't show you the coolest things because they're just total spoilers, but Blade's awesome. So, it's got Blade, and it's an awesome book, so check it out. Then we're going to hit a couple of X-Men titles, and we have Iceman, issue number 8 from Cinegrace and Robert Gill. And it is Iceman vs. Iceman, part 1 of 1. It's a one-shot. It's a little one-part issue in the greater tapestry that has been woven for Iceman over the last few months. This is probably my favorite issue of Iceman since the series debuted, also as a part of Resurrection. I really like this issue because we get to see a really great relationship between Iceman and Iceman. That's right, of course, it's Iceman versus Iceman, but it's not really a verse, It's kind of, they're hanging out, they're pals, They almost have a brotherly bond, and I think that's really appropriate for the characters, but also really unique. You don't get to, there aren't a lot of brotherly relationships right now that we're getting a lot of focus on. So I really like that there's actually a bit of nurturing relationship between these two. Show off some of that really cool art here as we get to see Pyro back in action. And I really like the little quips that they make at Pyro's expense. Pyro is one of my favorite X-Men villains. I know he's never going to conquer the world, but he's always cool. He controls fire. Who doesn't like fire? I have the Marvel Legends of him. It was an awesome figure. Plus, I liked the Pride of the X-Men cartoon, which had one episode, but he was in it. And it was very cool. And this issue is great. And we also get to see some really good character work. If one of the hallmarks of this series, one of the greatest parts, is that there's really great character work done for Bobby Drake, the original Bobby Drake that is currently, grown man and the focus of the series. So some really great stuff, and I really like the way that they use young Bobby to further the progression of older Bobby. They really do a great job, and it really plays up the brotherly bond that these two have developed. I really think it's great. And if you aren't missing, or if you aren't reading Iceman, you are missing out on one of the cooler books that Marvel is putting out right now. And then to close off that week's worth of books, we've got X-Men Gold, issue number 17, The Negative Zone War. Now, this is building up on plot threads that have been in X-Men Gold since issue 1. So we're now, 17 issues in. We've been going for a while. It's been over 6 months now. And some great stuff. We also get to see some awesome uniforms, which I dig. And even good old Logan makes a quip about how he hates being in a uniform now because, he's an old man. And it's probably tough to put on spandex when you're, like, his age. Like, let's be honest. There's some great stuff here, though. And we also get to see the Blue Marvel, which I really like the Blue Marvel. If you have read Ultimates, the Ultimates is a really great series and a really great showcase for the Blue Marvel. And we get to see some cool stuff here, some cool stuff with Nightcrawler that actually has me terrified. I I won't tell you what happens at the end of this issue, but I am legitimately very concerned for Nightcrawler next issue because it is not a good look. But the book is very good looking because it's got some fantastic art from Ken Lashley, who has been jumping on alternating story arcs with this book since the beginning. Some really cool stuff. It's got that classic X-Men feel. And yeah, no, I can't show you those pages, but I can tell you that the book is great and you should pick it up, and there will be a new issue coming out just on the horizon. Now, we're halfway through. We talked about an entire week's worth of books. I'm going to take a swig of water because I'm talking a million words a minute. But we're doing good. We got a lot of good stuff here for that week. If you guys are behind on your books, you got to go back. You got to check them out because there's some great stuff. Now, we do hit the books that just came out last week. And to start us off, we've got the brand new issue of Daredevil, issue number 596 from Charles Soule. And we've got Stefano Ladini on art. And in this issue, we are seeing Daredevil facing off against the law. Kingpin, of course, is now the mayor of New York City, hence the storyline name, Mayor Fisk. And now we're getting to see that's not good for Daredevil, man, like at all. Old Hornhead is having a tough time as he is on the run, and we get to see some really cool explorations of his powers and just why it would be really bad if he's, facing off against the NYPD. And I really like the dynamic here. I really like what it means for Matt moving forward, and more than anything else, so a lot of this issue plays like a giant chase scene, which Landini does an amazing job of playing the action very well. Show off just more of the art here while I'm talking about it. But what I really like is I like the ending of this issue because it makes me very curious for what the future holds for Matt Murdock. He's had some crazy stuff going in his life these last couple years, but now we get to see the craziest thing of them all might just be on the horizon, and very curious for what it means. It's awesome. It's actually it's legitimately the kind of thing here. I can show you one of these last pages, and I'll just cover up the dialogue here so you can look at the art because it shows this very tense moment of Matt just kind of like, oh man, do I do it? Do I do this thing? Am I gonna cross that line? It's cool. The book is really cool. Check it out. It's really awesome. All right. Then we also have the brand new issue of The Despicable Deadpool, issue 290, with the least subtle cover of anything in comics. This issue, Cable dies, and wouldn't you know it, the book is not lying to you. The storyline is called Deadpool Kills Cable, and I guess that they decided, you know what, let's make that name pretty accurate. And, after last issue, which was crazy, and had some really interesting battles with Cable and Deadpool, now we get to see some cool stuff as we actually play with time itself, because Cable, of course, being time traveler extraordinaire, is going through the timeline, and we get some really cool stuff here. Let me see if I can show you any of this without ruining the impact. Oh yeah, this is pretty cool. They face off against these giant vampires, and that's awesome. Some really great stuff here, Jared Dugan, and we've got Scott Koblish on the art here, and he really does a great job. Of course, he's jumped on and off Deadpool for the last couple years. He's been one of the rotating artists, doing a really good job here, and this is a really great story if you are a Deadpool fan, if you are a Cable fan. If you're a Cable fan and you're not reading this as well as the regular Cable book, which we'll talk about, don't worry, you're missing out because Cable's in 2 books, which is awesome. And this book is super good and super fun and really great, especially if you're a Deadpool fan. And if you guys are excited for Deadpool 2 and you want to see what these two guys are like when they're put in the same room, check it out, issue 290. And the story's been going for a couple issues. So go back the last couple issues and pick it up. And then, just for fun, Phoenix variant. Very cool, I think I take it back. Earlier I said Rocket is probably the last person you want to have the Phoenix powers. No, it's Deadpool. If ever given the option of what would be the worst person to give extraordinary power to, the answer is Deadpool. Do not give Deadpool power. He does not need it. He is annoying enough with just the healing. Imagine if he had the powers of the Phoenix. Imagine if he had the power cosmic. All these things. No, I don't want that. So then we continue on, and we have the brand new issue of Falcon. Rodney Barnes doing a great job with Joshua Cassara on art, and we get to see a lot of character moments here for Falcon. But what's also awesome is they're fighting demons, which is really cool. You're under arrest, it says on the cover. Well, that's right, because I opened the book up and he's in jail. As Falcon just tries to escape as he's facing off against Blackheart. And like Falcon versus Blackheart is probably like a really not even fight in any way, shape, or form. But it's really dramatic and really cool and really doing a great job of following up on some of the ideas that we saw in the Sam Wilson Captain America book as Sam tries to become his own man, and him and Patriot here are breaking free and realizing that they can't adhere to the rules that society has placed upon them, which is great and really cool. Falcon is one of those great characters that has been around for a long time, but in these last couple years, we've seen a continued emphasis on the character, and I think it's really been to the character's benefit. I think it's benefited the Marvel Universe, and I think it's overdue. Rodney Barnes is doing a great job, so check out Falcon if you aren't already. Now, moving on, we've got a book that has one of the weirdest premises of any Marvel book right now. That's Punisher 219. All right, so take the Punisher and give him the War Machine suit. Watch blood flow everywhere after that because it's the Punisher. And if the Punisher's got like a pocket knife on him, he could probably take out a room full of armed guards. You give him the War Machine armor, and there's basically nothing that can stop the guy, which is awesome. And so Matthew Rosenberg and Goy Villanova is doing the art, and the art is really cool here. Let's get a cool stoic shot of the Punisher as he enters into the room, and it is a really great book. This is actually I really like this issue. I like the last issue. Last issue we got to see a lot of banter between Nick Fury and with Frank Castle, but this issue we get to see the Punisher in action more, which is great because the Punisher with the War Machine suit, that's what we're paying our money for. Let's see some cool stuff. But what I really like is that Matt does a great job of writing Frank Castle and his mentality towards war and his mentality towards oppression. And I think that there's some really good stuff here as he befriends a local farmer. Show off a couple more pages. And it really reads almost like an episodic adventure. You get a full story in this issue. And it does feel like it's growing towards a greater narrative. But I also think that it's doing a great job of telling a heartbreaking tale of, just what it's like to be at the end of your rope and to not have any options remaining. Some great stuff. Really cool book. And a cool Clayton Crane cover because it's Clayton Crane. But, of course, Phoenix variant. Awesome. Sanford Green. Love Sanford Green. Love Power Man and Iron Fist. So, awesome. Then we have a couple of Inhumans books, which I think is really cool. So we've got the brand new issue of Royals, issue number 12, and it's the brand new issue, and it's also the final issue. So a moment of remembrance for Royals. But the action does not conclude. You do get a conclusion to a lot of the ongoing plot threads, but it also is leading up to a brand new Inhuman storyline coming up. Let me find, because they did do a picture. So we've got Inhumans Judgment Day that is lying just on the horizon. And in this issue of Royals, Al Ewing really does a great job of showing some crazy stuff that you would not expect to see. The Inhumans kind of always have this weird history, and it's really playing up a lot of those really bizarre sci-fi concepts that not only the Inhumans, but the Kree are known to have. And so we get a couple really cool action sequences here, and we also get some flashbacks to explore Maximus the Mad. And we get to see just what happens when you touch Primogen, which is, of course, the predecessor to the Terrigen that the Inhumans were looking for. They find Primogen. Primogen is, like the granddaddy version. And it's awesome, and there's some cool stuff. And also, Flint is super cool in this, and like we spend a bunch of time with future Flint, and in the future, Flint is like, you can see him over here. Flint is, well, actually, you can see him on the cover. Flint is like this weird upside-down giant crystal creature, and it's awesome. It's really cool. It's really weird. And like I said, it's one of those crazy concepts that the Inhumans have a great history of, and now we get to see it in a modern way, and I really like it. And I got to tell you, Flint is awesome, and I'm really curious to see if this future version of Flint ever comes to fruition. So I will definitely be checking out Judgment Day because it's awesome. That's cool looking. That's really cool. I'm excited. You should be excited. Now we also have Secret Warriors issue number 10. So of course this is dealing with many of the young Inhuman characters, but we also get magic, which is cool. So we get a little bit of a little mutant flavor in there, and which is very appropriate, to see these two teams intermingling, and we get some great art. Matthew Rosenberg is writing it, and Javier Garron does much of the art with Will Robson as well, and does some great stuff, some really cool sequences. Devil Dinosaur, you gotta love Devil Dinosaur because it's a giant red dinosaur, so what's not to love? And the series in general has just been an absolute delight. I've really enjoyed it. If you guys have watched me talk about this book, you guys know this is one of my favorite Marvel books that is coming out right now. And I really like what goes on here. We get to see some cool sexual tension as well, which is kind of expected when you've got all these, young people with absolutely perfect bodies and abs because, Inferno hits the gym in between missions. But there's some great stuff here. We get to see they're facing off against Sinister, crazy, nonsense all over the place, and it looks like Karnak has been double dealing underneath the table. So very exciting storyline, some cool build-up, and I'm very curious to see where it leads and if they have any role in the Judgment Day story I just mentioned. Now moving on, we have the brand new issue of She-Hulk. Issue 160, Jen Walters must die. Well, that sucks. I like Jen. Oh, well. But this is, of course, an intimate look at Jen as she has been in captivity. She has been kidnapped here. Some cool image. Really dig some of the art here. Is really fantastic stuff by Janoy Lindsay. Mariko Tamaki has been writing this since day one, and Lindsay is now on the art. And there's a really cool sequence that I really liked that was actually almost like here we go. Boom. Double page spread. Awesome spread. It was kind of almost like a history of what this book has been for the last year in a 2-page spread, which I really dig, showing a lot of the different conflict and some great stuff as we've got this weird stalker character who is like super way too into Jen. And it's like, hey, you're still in the room. Okay, why won't you leave me alone? And it's this weird dynamic that's kind of awesome. It's nice seeing Jen pushed outside of her comfort zone. And I really like what this book is doing. And, all right, this time I'll spoil it for you. This time I'll show you. We've got this crazy, crazy monster that Jen's going to have to duke it with next issue. And it looks like the ugliest looking She-Hulk you've ever seen. And I won't give you proper context, but looks like Jen is going to have quite the battle, quite the fisticuffs next issue. Then we have the brand new issue of Scarlet Spider. Ben Reilly, the Scarlet Spider, issue number 11 from Peter David. And this issue, we have Andre Arujo on art, and there's some great stuff. And you can see Ben really needs to see a dermatologist. His skin is just flaky and dry and pasty, and, it happens. I get it. But what's really fun about it is that we get to see death. And it actually turns out that his skin condition is kind of as a result of death, which I think is really fun. And the book in general is really great. I haven't read a ton of 90s Spider-Man, so I don't have this great attachment to Ben Reilly. I like him. He's cool, but he wasn't, he wasn't my Spider-Man. But I really like what they've done with him in this book because I feel like it is a great way of hooking a modern audience on the classic tropes of the character. And we get to see the return of Prodigy, which is really cool because Prodigy is, of course, one of the slingers. He's one of the guys that we've seen. Spider-Man originally used the alias, and then he became his own dude, and he's awesome, and he's cool, and he's kind of like the biggest jerk out of all of them. So it's really interesting to see how he fits into the storyline, and I'm really excited for what this book holds in the future. And Peter David's been doing a great job. I really like it. I really legitimately super dig this book. I've never been a Ben Riley guy, but now I'm totally engrossed in his story, in his world, and I'm very curious to see where it goes. And now we are back in the world of Spider-Man. So we've got the very cool Alex Ross cover for issue 792 from Dan Slott and Ryan Stegman. But we've also got the Phoenix variant, which is very cool. Now that's a guy that would be interesting to see as a Phoenix, old webhead. So we get to see Mike Costa and Dan Slott doing a great job with Peter Parker, who still clearly does not like Venom, does not like Eddie Brock because he's punching him right in the face. And that's dirty. That's low. How dare you punch a man when he's, burning alive? Because he's got the Anti-Venom stuff going all over the place. But like I mentioned before, this new storyline is really great. I'm really enjoying it. It has everything is checked off on your list that you want. We've got classic symbiotes. We've got new symbiotes. We've got Peter. We've got Flash. We've got Eddie. We've got following up on some of the plot threads we've been seeing throughout the Spider-Man books of Black Cat being the queen pin of crime. Some really cool stuff with that. We get some Hammerhead. We get everything. And it's all drawn by Ryan Stegman. Let me see if I can find you a cool page that isn't too much of a spoiler. Let's see. Yeah, we'll continue with some of that action. So we've got some great stuff here. Ryan Stegman's art is really incredible. If you guys didn't read his Superior Spider-Man art a couple years ago when he was working with Dan Slott, that was really great. And Ryan Stegman just does a great job of handling these really chaotic characters. That's the beauty of a symbiote, is that symbiotes are supposed to be all gangly. They're supposed to be all disproportionate because it enhances the attributes of the character that they are, attached to. And I really like what he's doing here. Some great stuff. Now, a book that I have been enjoying for years now, and it's such an odd book. The Unbeatable Squirrel Girl, issue number 27. This cover is awesome. Of course, homaging some classic Mobius there. And we'll show off the interior to get a clean shot at that art. And another cover that I really like is I really like the trading card cover for this one. Really cool, really fun. John Tyler Christopher. So it's written by Ryan North, and it's got Erica Henderson on art, and it has been since day one. These two have really done an amazing job. And one of the things, if you haven't read Squirrel Girl is a very easy book to jump into. You can jump in on this issue. You don't have to have read the previous stuff. And she talks to squirrels. Full stop. That is the story. And it's fun. It's a comedy book, and it is really great. It's a character that I think a lot of people have attached to, and I have been able to hand off to younger readers as well, which I think is really great. I picked a copy of the Squirrel Girl graphic novel up for my sister for Hanukkah. There's some really cool stuff in this book if you haven't read it. Really great job. If you're familiar with the book, it's just adorable. It's really fun. And I love, and it's the funniest thing for me to really enjoy, because it's such a weird thing that I can only say about this book. But let's see if I can find the panel of it. I really like Squirrel Girl's yeah, I really like Squirrel Girl's banter with the squirrels, because all the squirrels have like these oddly distinct and vibrant personalities, but they're squirrels. So it's kind of hilarious to hear like these squirrels being like, yeah, I'm really happy to help and pitch in on the team. And she's like, you guys are doing a great job. You're the best squirrels I could ever ask for. And they're like, did you hear that? She said on the breast. And she's like, oh yeah, but everybody's the best squirrel to her. And it's funny. It's silly. It's great. This is the exact kind of book that you want to be able to hand off to a younger reader. And if you've got a good sense of humor, check it out. Also, it does this great thing that there's no way that you guys will be able to see this on the camera. But at the bottom of every single page in really tiny font, they actually do show these extra additional jokes, and it's almost like Ryan North talking directly to the reader. So that's really fun and really silly. And also, yeah, no, you're not crazy. Those are green squirrels. I'm not going to explain it, but I will tell you it's great. And Loki's in this, and we get to see the Silpher being a total dude bro, which I think is great because he's just like total surfer dude, nonchalant, and it's great. So yeah. Then we have a wealth of X-Men books this week, so I'm gonna go through them all I'm going to try to go through them fairly quick. So we've got all new Wolverine issue number 28 from Tom Taylor and Juan Cabal, and this is probably up there for like my favorite issue of this series. I am fully invested in this series and in these characters now, and I really love the way that they play with the established continuity of these characters and their lore. And we also get to see, we're just trying to find, we also get to see some cool stuff with the greater X-Men, as well as Danger, the personification of the Danger Room, does appear in the book, which is great. That's her piloting the jet. And some great stuff here. And I'm going to show you this double page spread because I want to show Danger on this page. But you'll also probably see that Gabby has now gotten a code name. And Gabby's been running around this book for a couple years now. And I think it's an appropriate name. And I think it's great. So we're just gonna look at this, and it's great that you can see Danger. You can see Dakin with his really charming smile, and you can see the newly crowned Honey Badger. That's right, which is a perfect name for her because as they literally make a joke about it. Your name, Honey Badger. Why? Because you're sweet and you have claws. It's perfect. It is perfect. It is actually perfect. And now she's going to be in the X-Men Red book, and I'm so totally on board with this character. I'm so completely sold on Gabby, and I wasn't originally. I'm not gonna lie to you. I totally was like, why do we need a clone of a clone? We're getting a little too, cloney here. And she's great. She's so fun, and I really like what's going on here. Juan Cabal's art is great. I want to see him draw everything. I've really, really enjoyed his art here. And we'll show off this really cool splash page he does of Dakin as well, which I think is great because I'm also a big fan of Dakin. I really liked Marjorie Liu's run with him and a lot of the stuff that Daniel Way did as well, and I'm really happy to see him in the forefront of a book. Orphans of X, totally my favorite storyline of this entire series so far, because I wasn't always a huge fan of the book, and I'm definitely a huge fan of it right now, and is now quickly becoming one of my favorite books to look forward to every month. Then another book that I have been enjoying, that I have been reading quite this whole while, is Weapon X issue number 12. So this is Greg Pak, and now it's I'm going to butcher this, but Yildiray Sinar. Some really great art here. We'll show off this cool cover. I actually want to show off the lenticular homage cover to some classic Barry Windsor Smith art, which is really cool. Of course, one of the classic Weapon X books. But the story is called, what is it? Nuclear War, I think, right? Yeah, Nuclear War, but with a play on words where it's nuke, which is great, and the book has been really cool. You'll see that the Weapon X team has kind of found a bit of stability in the wake of everything that happened with the whole Weapon H storyline, which was crazy, and things have been crazy in this book. So if you guys, first off, if you haven't been reading this book, go pick up the first couple trades, because there's a couple trades out. It's awesome, and it's really cool. Greg Pak's been doing a great job. But if you're jumping on this issue, it really is approachable. It really is easy. You automatically meet all these characters. You automatically understand what their role is, and you get that they don't even kind of like each other. But there's some great action. Sinar really does a cool job of introducing these new nuke soldiers, the nuke platoon, as they call them. And they're really great, and I'm a big fan of Nuke. He's actually one of my favorite Wolverine / Captain America villains. He's really cool. Rick Remender did a great job with him a couple years ago in his Captain America run. So it's cool to see that the concept of Nuke lives on. Charles Soule played with him in Death of Wolverine. So some cool stuff here. Really great book. And I'll show you this one. A nuke is here. So what does that mean? Because the nuke does not get along well with these guys at all. So this isn't going to end well. But the book is definitely well done. It is a really cool read. If you haven't been checking it out, like I said, you should pick up the first couple trades, because there are a couple trades out. But you can jump on right here, and it is easy, and it's great. It's a really good read, and it's using some really cool characters that I really have always loved. I'm a big Warpath guy. So then we have the brand new issue of Cable. Issue number 152 from Ed Brisson and John Malin. And John Malin is probably the most perfect artist for the story that I could possibly think of, because this story is all big and crazy in the sense of a lot of those 90s X-Men comics. Um, kind of like the X-Force breed of books where it's just like a lot of crazy stuff. Uh, and yes, that does lead to some familiar tropes. There's a lot of pouches, a lot of metal limbs and stuff like that. But it's great, and it works for the world of Cable because he's such a ridiculous character at times. But it's grounded in story as well. And we also get to see the return of Gideon, which is awesome because, of course, he debuted in the same issue as Deadpool and Domino way back when. Although it wasn't technically Domino, but it was Domino. But there's some great stuff here. Really cool. We also get to see these absolutely horrifying looking monsters that are going to eat everybody up, and yummy. But it's really cool. It's a really good read. If you're a fan of 90s X-Men, Cable's like the most well, okay. There's another book this week that's really heavy 90s X-Men, but that's good. The good kind of 90s X-Men. Let's remember that the X-Men were kind of like the greatest thing to happen in the 90s in all of comics. And Cable is following suit with some really great storylines. Then we have one of the most depressing books of the week. Jean Grey, issue number 10. And this was like a swift kick in the feels. This was not what I was, this was not what I wanted. I did want, I wanted a good book. Dennis Hopeless, you darn did it. You gave me a really good book, but man, you made me upset. Alberto Albuquerque jumps in on the art here. And let's just open it up to give you an idea of how crazy things have gotten in this book. If you guys have been reading Jean Grey from the beginning, you know that she's been trying to avoid the Phoenix at all costs, and clearly that did not work out well at all, as many of Marvel's Merry Mutants are finding themselves ablaze in the wake of the Phoenix. Now, we know that Phoenix Resurrection will be coming out later this month, so I'm very curious to see what plot threads build off of this, because I have a lot of faith in that book. I'm very excited. Look, there's even an advertisement for it. But seriously, the lore of the X-Men is explored so well here, and it's really awesome. And I've been also wondering just how the Jean Grey book was going to fold in with Phoenix Resurrection and with X-Men Red and with all this stuff looming on the horizon. And I gotta tell you, this is going to answer a lot of your questions with what all this stuff that happens with Jean Grey. Really cool. Albuquerque does a great job on the art, filling in and just really delivering on the emotional context of this issue. And I won't show you everything, but I'll show you this because that's awesome. That's so cool. The issue is so great. This is one of the best books of the week by far. And if you've been reading Jean Grey, you know that this book is already amazing. And if you haven't been, pick up the last couple issues. Pick up the whole thing. It's only 10 issues. That's not that much. Buy a trade. It's fine. But it's a great read. It really is worthwhile. And I don't like Jean Grey. I've never been a big fan of the character. But Dennis Hopeless has completely made me invest in this young Jean Grey. And I'm really curious to see now what happens in a couple weeks with, Phoenix Resurrection. And now, and I mentioned before that Cable may have been the most 90s X-Men book, but I gotta tell you, I think that honor actually goes right here to X-Men 2099 appearing in X-Men Blue issue number 17. So we get Cullen Bunn and R.B. Silva is on the art for this issue, and there's a bunch of really cool splash pages here. But we get the X-Men 2099, which I think is really cool because they're characters we haven't seen in years, and I mean like years. So it's really great to see these 2099 characters brought back and actually play with their world. And also because, the dynamic has shifted so much in what X-Men Blue is. X-Men Blue is kind of the X-Men going on these crazy adventures and encountering so many crazy versions of the X-Men. So I like that it's kind of like the home for misfit toys with the X-Men, because of course, the X-Men are from a displaced time, and then we've got Jimmy Hudson, who's from the Ultimate Universe, and we've got Bloodstorm, who's of course from another universe as well. So going into the X-Men 2099 world just feels natural. It feels really cool seeing all these different versions of the X-Men teaming up. It's almost like Exiles, and I loved Exiles, so I say that as like a high compliment. I love the first half of Exiles. But there's some really great stuff here, and we'll just show off a couple more pages. Really enjoying what R.B. Silva brings to the book. He's done some magnificent work on the X-Men titles before. Of course, he did XMen Gold over the summer, and he really has a great fit for the franchise. I'm really a big fan, and I can't show you the last page because that's how they get you. That's how they always get you. They always put that crazy thing on the last page. But it looks like they are not done playing with these 90s characters and concepts, and I am super excited for the next issue because I had no idea that these characters would be appearing, and I can't tell you who, but I can tell you that I'm excited, and X-Men fans will be really happy to see. So yeah, X-Men Blue, great book. So there's a lot here, like a lot. And it's great because it's 2 weeks worth of books, so you want a lot. And it's the holidays, it's cold, it's the time of year where you want to curl up and have a giant stack of books and just curl up under a blanket, hopefully not a Snuggie, and curl up next to the fireplace and read some books. And if you don't like them, you can throw them into the fire to keep you warm. But really, there's some great stuff. I will say that the new issue of Captain America, issue number 696, is absolutely fantastic. It is everything Captain America fans could ever want in a single comic book. It is great. It is a one-shot, and you can enjoy it. And it's honestly, this is what everybody has wanted Captain America to be for a very long time now. And I'm really happy with that. So I really dig it. So that's a great read. Then we've also got Hawkeye. Hawkeye issue number 13 is great. This is one of my favorite Marvel titles that is coming out right now. It has been all year. And Kelly Thompson just has such a great grasp on these characters. She is one of my favorite writers at the moment because she really just only makes good books. And Hawkeye is probably my favorite book that she has worked on. Then what else? We've got Black Bolt, one of the most critically acclaimed books of the year. Check out the new storyline. If you missed out on the first one, it just came out in trade, so you don't have to feel like you missed out because it just came out in trade. So it really is great. And then if you're a classic Spider-Man fan, and you're not reading Venom Inc., you should just slap yourself because you're missing out. It is so great. It is everything that you want as a Spider-Man fan because it's all the symbiotes, it's all the crazy stuff that I yearn for when I read a Spider-Man book. I want the crazy, you know? And it's great. It's a really good read. And there's a lot of cool stuff. Jean Grey is emotionally devastating in the best way possible. Squirrel Girl is tons of fun. All new Wolverine, I am completely sold. All these books aren't for everybody. I'm not going to tell you. You're not necessarily me. You're not necessarily sitting here with a stack of like 20-something odd books, and you're like, I'm going to read all these different things. No, I get that. They're not all for you. Maybe SheHulk isn't your cup of tea. That's cool, but for somebody else, it's great. So if you want a cool comedy series that's got a lot of character-driven moments, you should be checking out SheHulk. If you want big, crazy action, check out XMen Gold because it's got the Negative Zone War. There's a lot of great books. We want to hear from you guys, so if you guys are enjoying any books in particular, please let us know. Let us know if you like these videos. Let us know if you want to hear us talk about things more in depth, more crazy things going on in the magnificent world of Marvel. And we will not be here next week because next Monday is, of course, Christmas. So we will not be here, but we will be back in 2 weeks for a mega-sized Marvel Monday. So we'll see you guys soon.